over the last decade or so in this field, or healthcare field in general, is that our clients are very much more informed now. They're doing their research because their goal always is now more and more so even than the past is to try to be home as long as they can be. Even when we are planning our future, or my parents, or even my grandparents, when they planned it, the whole vision was, I'm going to stay home as long as I can, right? So how do I make that happen? Knowing and doing your education, knowing and understanding your resources, knowing and understanding what's in the community accessible to you, and having a very strong voice. So the second part would be the advocacy piece. My clients who are coming to our facility are not only informed, they know what they can access at home, but they also know what they can ask me for, what my facility should be able to provide. They've done their research within multiple options, whether that's bringing a PSW at home through community care, whether that's working with long-term facilities and starting that process because they know it's years of wait before they're going to get that bed. And in between the spectrum, knowing how to bring in extra services to home, or whether it's independent living, assisted living, memory care. They're knowledgeable of this gamut, right? But they can also advocate for themselves. They can question and say, I'm not willing to take this medication. I've done my research. So can we please have a second opinion on? So very much the vocalization because of understanding of what's occurring. And two, understanding what the changes that are occurring are as seniors. At one point, maybe cardiac was a very big focus, right? And then it's shifted to how do I access retirement homes? And now very much the research. Culture of competition, that culture of one retirement home to next has shifted into very much a vocal united voice front. I feel like when we're advocating for the retirement sector, we're all doing it a lot more strongly together. We're identifying these gaps together. We're reaching out to each other a lot more for support. So me being in a dementia care only facility, there are others. There's a lovely one in Grimsby, Stony Creek area. There's multiple around my area, and we all actually reach out to each other for support. Talking about, okay, I have this one client, they're having issues with PG&T, but they also need a further resource with medications. Like, how are you going about it? So that networking during the pandemic was very much a forefront, and that's kind of evolved strongly to have a very strong single voice unit in a retirement home, which I'm enjoying a lot more. So as I mentioned, we purchased 5 homes, and each has built our new pod into it. So the intimacy piece, how we've held it is because our vision always was to sustain Roz's want and vision of a small home. So each pod is no more than 22, maximum 22 residents in one section. On that one section is its own home. But the biggest part is our overall staffing model. So when somebody comes in and does a tour with us, I always remind them that we're a 1-to-3 ratio in staffing, but that staffing is not just PSWs. That's my nurses, my PSW, my rec therapists and managers involved. My kitchen, my housekeeping and management's above and beyond. But my nursing, PSW and recs are who provide the care. We don't have dietary aides because we believe PSWs need to be able to monitor the intake. Intake is very strongly impactful and correlated to how the behaviors occur. Many residents can advocate and say, my sugar's dipping, or I'm hungry, or I'm feeling lethargic. We need to monitor that, right? So again, environmental impacts that nurse's office, management office, all face into that pod. So when the residents there in the morning, if they didn't have breakfast, my PSW will be able to observe that because they're on the floor. My nurse can observe that because she's on the floor, and my director of care can know that because she's right there on the floor, right? So we look into those each pods because we need to stay, again, as I said earlier, on top of this and ahead of the game. Over decades have learned that somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, the last senses to deplete or go are usually tactile and auditory. So
Mhm.
very much around those two senses. Music therapy we do anywhere between 5 to 6 times a week. We have external vendor who's a certified music therapist who comes on. She does each pod for about an hour, depending. And her, like I said earlier, their performance changes. So an E might be very much singing the songs the residents are picking, and they've made a list of what they want to hear that day, and they're singing along with it, and they're dancing and moving. On D might be she already kind of knows what keeps them calm when she's singing over time. And it's a learned experience, right? So she might sing a new song and the pitch of it is setting my residents off. And then she has to alter that pitch to kind of realize, okay, this is what the residents enjoy, not that particular song. And then she gets to pod ABC, where the response is more, they're not able to vocalize. So the response is very much on watching their nonverbals, watching that when she's singing during mealtime, because on that side, we usually try to do it around meals. So they're more alert and paying attention. We monitor to see, is their intake increasing when they're listening to it, or are they just getting grimacing and not really taking? So we're watching a lot more on the nonverbal. So very much involved around music therapist. Challenge for any retirement sector, especially a small operator, will be our human resources. Um, we're competing with large hospitals. We're competing with large operators. We're competing with government agencies. We're definitely competing with community agencies, right? All these private RN, PSW teams that have opened up, their pay rates are different than ours. And being private operator, for profit private operators and small operators, yes, we are comparing with our, and probably meeting and above with our competitors, but we're never going to be able to sustain a large hospital. We're never going to beat or even come near them, or long-term care. So I think
Mhm.
the human resource will always be a challenge for retirement sectors. We believe very strongly in how we do the care, and we believe in the physical and the human resource model that we have. We are a higher staffing model. Majority of our actually income goes towards that, but we're passionate about that. So we're not going to touch that element. Well, my future game plan and my partner's future game plan is that innovation. I really want to focus into the education and innovation piece, because I'm noticing that more and more team members we're bringing on who are new graduates. Unfortunately, a lot of them graduated during the pandemic phase where they didn't get the clinical opportunities. They didn't. I am getting more and more involved in the education piece, mentorship piece, trying to network with the colleges for PSW that are local, even reaching out into development of their program, working with the CADI at Bake Press to kind of say, what are the new innovations, inventions that are coming through, and let's test trial it. I would love to be present for those, and volunteer our facility for those things, trying new electronics and technology innovations. So being very much on the education mentorship side, because we feel that our model and our product is there and it's strong. Our wait list speaks volumes for it. We always are in high flex for those. But what I need is the people I'm bringing on to have that knowledge base about dementia. The people who are coming in, by people I mean my resources, my team members. They have the right knowledge base and innovative tools to be successful. Our hope is always with the researchers, right? Everybody is hoping for some sort of resolution with this, or a medication that will delay this process or at least hinder this process beyond. Certain programs, if I use my memory care programs early enough, maybe I will not be in this bracket. The reality is the aging process is never going to change. You can invent 60,000 new medications and programs and games and technology. We're not going to stop the aging process. I think working early enough with them, with those researchers, and being part of their trials and their knowledge base, and being upfront and ahead of that and being part of their research is what's going to keep us forward. That's why my focus more on innovation now and more on research and more on mentorship, because we do want to find a cure for this. We do want to find sustainability of, if I'm having it, but at least have a good quality of life, right? So that's not going to change for us. It's same as having cardiac medications, having many different other treatments for things doesn't mean it stops it. It just means we improve the quality of life. So 100% hoping and banking for some sort of a cure, banking for some sort of innovations that will improve quality of life. And I hope we're right in the front of it with them. My ideal would be what a lot of like the European village concepts are about. Like I love the idea of having multiple facilities that are providing different elements of care but working together. So us knowing, for example, Alzheimer's Society is doing certain activities, but then we can send a resident engage with them and then transition to us. And then other facilities who are maybe not the same price bracket as ours, but they're working with us as well and saying, this is what we can help them with. So that's already coming to the forefront post pandemic, where, as I said earlier, that we're starting to work a lot better versus competitively. So if a family member is really needing our resources, knowing my external friends, I'm not going to call them competitors anymore, my friends, who are providing different care or less costly care, I can say, you know what, I understand that we're not a home right now for you, but here's a community that might meet your needs right now, and doing a referral. And we've gotten a lot of referrals from other retirement homes that are saying, hey, we do memory care, but this particular client needs you. We've had external from many different retirement homes, their marketing team members to come and say, to come take a look at our model. So I'm looking forward to that vision of working as a retirement cohesive sector versus very much as in, this is my business. And that is coming to the forefront a lot more, just like it did in Europe and stuff, where everybody worked as a team. We're getting there.